Welcome back to Be Productive. When we are running an effective and a healthy organization, we need to make sure that our systems are in place because if you've ever had your systems go down, you know how that can just mess up your entire day, your entire week, and it could be thousands and thousands of dollars in lost productivity. One of the best things you can have is systems that are on the back end. Again, making sure that your intellectual property, all the systems that you've put into place, and everything else is secure. So, to help talk about how we can set our systems up and make sure that they are tailored to your specific needs, I have my friend Greg Schaefer. So, Greg, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back.
Love having you here. You always bring so much value in our conversations. What I want to talk about is more specifically, what it is that you do as far as helping to protect companies, the systems that they have in place, and how having somebody doing this virtual can really bring an uptake to their level of productivity. So, you're in the field of cybersecurity. And how does doing this virtually and having an expert like you helping them, how does it differ than more of a traditional securities officer?
Larger organizations have the traditional security officer, and this traditional security officer is well versed in information security risk management. It goes beyond the technical. And what I mean by risk management is you can't say that everything is yes or no. Everything is binary. There are levels of risk to accept, and it's in all aspects of business that we have different levels of risk that we need to accept. The same thing with regards to risk. And the CISO in large organizations, Chief Information Security Officer, knows that and has practiced that. Smaller organizations, though, they don't have access to that knowledge and that skill set, but they need it. That's how the virtual CISO field was birthed, if you will, many years ago. And what it simply does is just take folks like myself who have been full-time chief information security officers, and we take our expertise on a part-time fractional basis to the smaller businesses who don't need nor can afford to have a full-time CISO on staff. We're not cheap because what we do is very I don't want to say rare, but it's a very involved skill set. So the full-time chief information security officer salary can range roughly around $300,000 a year, including compensation. It depends upon which survey you look at. An SMB doesn't need to lay out that sort of expense for a full-time security officer. So it's basically taking the best of both worlds, bringing that experience, that deep knowledge, and from what they've done in the past, but only on a part-time basis, and that keeps the cost down. And by doing it virtually, of course, then too, not only does that keep the cost down as far as having to have a presence on site, but you also now can choose from a much greater pool of potential service providers, not just local to your area, but nationwide or even beyond.
I love that. And again, when they're working with you, what I love about this is, again, it opens up the opportunity for people to be able to have all of these systems and, again, not have to take on a huge salary, which could affect the bottom line. So, again, you're bringing in what it is you need without too much extra cost and inefficiency coming in. One of the things I also know that you really do is you work very hard and you really pride yourself on being able to be a partner and a trusted advisor with your people. Talk to me a little bit about how you work to make sure that you are helping to tailor the services so that when people work with a virtual information securities officer like yourself, that they're getting exactly what they need tailored for their business.
Well, not only do we bring that risk management, information security risk management experience, but there's another component that's a little bit different from like the full-time chief information security officer, and that is we're consultants and we need to understand the small and mid-sized business needs. I think that that's one of the biggest differentiator between what a full-time officer would do in a part-time. And why that's important is that immediately when we go in, we're not going to start to recommend that you perform actions or buy technology that would be appropriate solutions for a larger business. We're going to talk to you. The first thing, what we do for the first month, 2 or 3 months is more about talking, more about learning your business, about learning your culture, about learning your risk tolerance, because it's much more important to understand that now we're not going to come in and propose a $50,000 or more year solution, because we know that that's not practical for small and mid-sized businesses, particularly when you're talking even on the smaller side and the startup side. So how we tailor is starting by not coming in with solutions, but asking questions. And then from those questions, we have, from our experience and our knowledge of the industry, various options on what we can choose, whether it be a different framework or a different technology or a different approach, different policies, just a different way of managing your risk. You know that when you're working with a qualified virtual CISO, that they are going down that path because ultimately they have also the consulting skills to be able to draw that out of you. Because again, when all is said and done, it's about making sure that your business is going to benefit from the relationship.
Absolutely. And again, that keyword relationship, working together as partners in this and building that trust. And that's why I think it's so important. It's not one size fits all. And you really have to take the time to have that
Mhm.
consultation, ask those questions to really start to decipher and, create a program that's going to work. You mentioned a lot of the idea of being able to have an expert without necessarily the big cost that comes with having a full-time person on staff. What are some other key benefits that working with someone virtually like you can really help a company?
Well, one that comes to mind is the aspect of being a translator. And so, what do I mean by that? Well, you may, as a business, you may have customers that want to know about your security of your information. How do you handle that? Or maybe you have somebody that a potential customer that they really want you to undergo an audit. That's kind of common as businesses grow. They look towards something called a SOC 2, for example. It's a attestation about the nature and state of your security program. A lot of times when you're talking with either customers or auditors, the customer or the auditor will ask for a specific thing that you're doing. We call them controls, but that's just a fancy word for stuff that you're doing to protect. So, like multi-factor authentication, we've talked about that before, is one control. Well, really, let's just say that you don't have that particular control in place that they're talking about, but you know that you're managing the risk. So there are four other things that you're doing that manage the risk. Auditor wants to see the one main thing, but what we do is that we're able to convey, because remember, we're information security risk management professionals, we're able to demonstrate and communicate that ultimately the risk that you're worried about is mitigated by these other four things that we're doing. And that's probably one of the most effective things that a virtual CISO can do for a small or mid-sized business.
Yeah. I'm laughing to myself when you're talking about all these terms because every time I talk with somebody in tech, I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
We love acronyms. We absolutely love acronyms. And I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and I love being able, and I think that's so powerful because you're right. Being that sort of liaison and translator is critical because
Mhm.
that's just not my area. So, and I always feel so insecure. So, again, being able to have someone like you to help me not only feel safe, but know that I'm confident in, again, making sure I'm getting the right thing. So, I love that. Can you think of, I'm sure you have a million of them, but can you think of a story or maybe, a case study that you worked with a company on and how you were really able to bring some of these things together and really benefit them with the services that you provide?
Well, going along the same line of the SOC 2 and the audit and all of that, very early on in my VC sewing, I like to call it, career, I had a small business, a little fintech startup. There were about 21 people. And the example that I just gave a few moments ago, it applies here. They have had a customer, a really, really big account that they wanted to land. This was something that ultimately propelled them to the next level. But they're a small startup, and this company was asking, hey, what about your security program? Do you have a SOC 2 audit? And I had been working with this company for about a year. And by working with them, one of the first things that I told them was, I know you're not ready for this type of audit right now, but at some point in time, you're going to be asked for this. And you want to make sure that when we get to that point, that the security program is at a stage that we can easily I'll put that in air quotes, but we can turn it over fairly easily. And that's exactly what happened here. So when the time came for the business to show, they were able to relatively quickly engage with an audit firm. We worked with the audit firm to show them what we're doing with our security program, because so we had spent the last 12 to 18 months building the security program. So it wasn't like we had to build something. We had the foresight to build it with this in mind, and they passed their first SOC 2 audit with no issues whatsoever. It's one of my proudest stories about it.
Ah,
And I like to tell people, it's like auditors can be your friends, but if you can't just start an audit without having the security program in place first. And that's what we did.
absolutely. So powerful. You've covered so many things, about the differentiation. I think, again, one of my biggest takeaways is understanding that we all need this, regardless of the size of our company. We need to make sure we are having somebody there. And, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions is, again, we're too small, we don't need it. And again, I think that you've kind of taken that misconception out of it and also have given us solutions to know, regardless of size, there is an option. And I really encourage everybody to go to your website and to set up just a free call with you. Again, have that initial consultation to assess the needs that they have and realize how simple this can be. So tell us, how do we get to your website? How do we contact you?
Website's easy. It's vcisoservices.com, vcisoservices.com. And on there, you can schedule a 15-minute free consultation with us. Just click the schedule a consultation, or maybe it says book an appointment. It's easy to find. You can email us at info@vcisoservices.com, or if you prefer the old-fashioned call, you can call us. The phone number is on the website.
Beautiful. Great. Thank you so much. Again, sharing so much value, taking something that can be very overwhelming, daunting, and sometimes scary, and making it simple. And more importantly, knowing that we have people in our corner that can help us. So thanks for being here. And for those of you that are watching the show, again, regardless of size, there are systems and companies and organizations that can help you in every angle of your business so that you can not just start being productive, but stay productive. So stay tuned, because we'll be back for more.